All right, so we have to do ideally by 10:45, so you've got an hour to work on this stuff. So by 10:45, I got 45 minutes to finish this chapter, go through the review questions, and do the test review. You're that good. You can do it. All right, so on page 75 in the book, they show this right here. Everybody see this? These both are the letter A. That's the letter A like you and I are used to it. That's the letter A in Unicode. That's what this comes from right here. The \U means Unicode. 41 is actually, it's ASCII value. Remember I showed you ASCII before? And what I did was I grabbed this, made a little change to it, but I put here letter A is equal to this, and then letter B is equal to this. Instead of 41, I made it 42. Then I just printed them both out. And notice, for the first one, letter A is A and letter B is B. And in the first case, we wrote it as a letter, and in the second case, we wrote it as a Unicode. All right? Just so you can see those. Is that big a thing? No. But the Unicode character set, just so you know, I had a student years ago who was a real smartass. A really bright guy, but a smartass. So he asked me, he said, hey, you know what, I don't like it that we have to say x equals a divided by b. He said, I want to use this, x equals a divided by b. Remember that back from the day in grade school probably? And I said, if you can find it on your keyboard, go ahead and use it. He couldn't find it on his keyboard, but he went out into the Unicode character set and found that character, which is there. So he started to use that character. All right? So, you know, if you've ever done this, I want to say 43 cents. There is no character on your keyboard for cents. There is a Unicode character for that. So a lot of the characters that you see that do not exist on the keyboard exist in the land of Unicode. All right? But everything that's on your keyboard also exists in Unicode. Okay? So I don't care which one you use. It's typically easier to write A than it is to write \U0041. But the key thing to realize, and what I want you to get out of this, is what you see up there in blue, that's a single character. It's a Unicode character, but it's a single character. How do I know that? If it wasn't, I'd have to put it in double quotes instead of single quotes. All right? Yeah.
Can you put that in double quotes?
If you put it in double quotes, it's literally the string \U0042. It's
Okay.
you know it's not the letter anymore. All right. On the bottom of page 76, the author talks about the string. All right. Characters are in single quotes, meaning strings are in double quotes. You cannot put a string over multiple lines, so I can't do this. Watch what happens when I try. So if I want to say, come here and say string equals my name is, and then on the next line, Jeff Scott. See how I'm getting errors? The system does not know how to understand that because it's on two different lines. But I can say my name is plus. That's legal. See how there's no errors now? I don't know why I'm getting a thing there, but oh, I got to give it, so, name. So now it works. Does that make sense? I believe I can do this. So if I want to put it over two lines, sometimes you get something that's really long on the screen. I believe if I say my name is like this, and I stop right here, and I put the last character is a \, I think then I can put it over two lines. Nothing like that either. There is a way to do that, but I don't remember what it is. All right? Maybe it'll even be mentioned in the book. Bottom line is, literally 100 times out of 100, you're going to break it into two different strings and just concatenate them together with a plus sign. All right. So here's some, when you compare strings, hopefully you'd agree that name 1 and name 2 are equal. Hopefully everybody'd agree with that. It compares them, it does what's called a lexicographical comparison. So in other words, it compares, it says, they're equal, they're equal, they're equal, I'm done, they're equal. On the other hand, if I'm comparing name 2 and name 3, they're not equal. So it stops right there when it's doing a comparison. That's what the author means. The author says it's done lexically. All right, but it's what's referred to as a lexicographical comparison. All right. There's different methods that you can use with equals. Remember methods? Methods are like functions. Strings are a class, so there's different string methods that exist. Let's say I wanted to find out all the C# string methods. Well, I could always just Google C# string methods. And I can guarantee you that one of the first ones that comes up is going to be MSDN, the Microsoft Developer Network string methods. So all the different stuff I can do with strings will all be shown in here. And as you can see, there's quite a few things that you can do with them. All right. Some of those are discussed on the bottom in your book, on the bottom of page 77 and the top of page 78. Now, do we have to memorize those? Do we need them for the test? I don't believe so. But there's a good program here on page 78 in the book. All right. So they show you the program on page 78 and they show you the run on 79. Again, if you're confused with this stuff, it's going to be your responsibility to go back and take a look at it. Constants, which are on page 80 on the bottom of the page. Remember I already showed you those? A name constant, you use the word const. There's an example. I was always taught in the way that I learned this stuff that you don't put underscores there, you just slam the word together. But some people like to do that. You can't have a hyphen in there. You must either slam them together without the underscore. The only other character you can put in is an underscore. By convention, it's not required, but by convention, constants are always uppercase. And enumeration, again, is something that you create. Please look at this because it's important that you understand this. What you see right there in the blue, that's creating a brand new data type. The data type is day of week. The only possible values for day of week are Sunday, must be in uppercase, Monday, must be in uppercase, etc. Does that make sense? What the system does internally is it gives these numbers. Not the numbers you probably want, because by default, what do we start with? How do we start counting in computers? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if you want to create something and you want that to start with 1, you typically would do it like that. You don't have to give the other ones numbers, they just follow automatically. In fact, this wouldn't make any sense, but let's just say I said Sunday equal 1, then next I had Monday equal 41. I just put that in there. Then this would be 42, 43, 44, 45, and 46. Does that make sense? It'll automatically just keep numbering from where you stopped. No, but I'm just saying if you did do that. Here's the thing for different speed limits. Yeah, like anybody goes 55 on a highway. But you get the idea. There's a lot of different places that you can use these things. There really are. What it does more than anything else when you use these is it makes your code more English-like. So instead of having to test, it used to be, I find this interesting. It used to be that what was considered the first day of the week was not Sunday. It was Monday. That was the first day of the week. All right? And Sunday was considered the seventh day of the week. I'm not going to go all church on you here, but if you've ever heard the biblical thing when they say on the seventh day God rested, I would think Sunday's the seventh day of the week because of that. All right? All right, to give you some rules on using these on the top of page 83, not that big a thing. What is big, because it's in somewhere or another, I think it's on the test, and if you do a console app for any of the 3 programs you do for your test, you need to use that read line. Remember I showed you the read line at the end? All right, there's another way you can use read line. Please look up on the screen. I'm going to say here, let's get rid of all this. Int H, okay? Now, I'm going to get an error when I first do this, just so you know. I know that already. So int H. I'm going to put it here, right line. What is your age? All right? Now, if I just do this, if I say age equal read line, I'm going to get an error. Can anybody guess why that would be an error? I'm purposely not putting the cursor over it because that would show you the error. But does anybody have any idea why that's an error? Go ahead. No, it's not number, but you're on the right path. Okay. Read line is looking for a string. Is age a string? Okay. So I have to basically, if I want to use that, then I've got to say, oh, I want to convert age to an integer like that. Well, it's 16 or 32. Would you want a 16-bit integer, a 32-bit integer, or a 64-bit integer? I don't know why I put 16. It's almost always 32. Now what it says is read that in, and as soon as you read it, convert it to an integer. Does that make sense? Looks a little weird, but you have to start understanding this. So now I'm going to come back and I'm going to say write line. The age entered was plus age. And I'm going to put another blank read line at the end here. So I'm going to run this right now. Oh, semicolon. I'm going to run this right now, and when I run it, what should happen is it should show on the screen a prompt that says, what is your age? Since I did a write, not a write line, the cursor will stay right there, and I'm going to put an age in. So I'll put in 22. Then it should come back and say the age entered was 22. Does that make sense? You know, when you look at it, you go, yeah, it's just logical. All right? So, what is your age? 22. The age entered was 22. Okay? That's all fine and dandy. But I don't know. What's going to happen when I hit enter? What? You don't know. Well, that's a good one. But what's happening is that's okay until it tries to convert it to an integer. And then it's taking a string and it's trying to convert. As soon as it comes up with that I and I don't know, it blows up. And I get what's called the exception assistant. And it's telling me, hey, you attempted to do something you shouldn't have done. I can even get a detailed message of it. The input string was not in the correct format. Why? Because it was expecting a number and I gave it a string. So it's letting me know, you screwed up. How do you get around that? I'm going to actually show you that in just a minute. All right? But that's when you have an interactive program, that means that you get feedback from the user and put it into the program. Your first test question is ask the user for his or her name. So you're going to have like a write that says, enter your complete name. All right? So I write mine, I put Jeffrey Paul Scott. And then it prints out, hello, Jeffrey Paul Scott, exclamation point. That's the first question on the test. That's 25% of your flippin' test. That's like 3 or 4 lines of code. Everybody should be able to do that. I will tell you, you can do it either as a console app or you can do it as a GUI app. You might want to do that as a console app because with a GUI, you've got to build a whole GUI for it. With a console app, you only have to enter in 3 or 4 lines of code. That's 25% of the test. I guarantee you. That is 25%. I asked that you put a prompt in that says, enter your complete name. All right? But Amin's going to do it, and he's going to say, I don't want to enter my whole complete name. I'm just going to say Amin. The program has no way of checking that it's your whole name. So whatever you put in there, in fact, if you put in 37, it's going to say hello 37. The system has no way of knowing what your name is and what's valid and what's invalid. We're not going to talk about stuff like that for a long time in here. All right. So what if I do want to? So I just showed you this, and I just showed you the convert class that the author mentions here on the middle of page 84, and it goes on to 85 and to 86. If you look on page 85, there is a program which shows you how to do the conversion. Eventually you will have a program where you will be required to do this. So you might as well learn it now. All right? Literally what you do on these 3 programs, I already told you the first question. Second question basically is to get the average of a bunch of stuff. So you're going to enter in some numbers and then get the average of those numbers. That's the only math you got to do on this test. The third one says you basically ask the user to enter their name, their address, etc., and then you parrot it back to them. That's about it. Okay? But there's that convert dot to double. There are a bunch of converts. They're shown in the table that's on page 86 in your book. And after the table that's on page 86, the author mentions that you can also do what's called parsing. All right? It says an alternative to convert is to use the parse. When you're parsing, you are converting. You may or may not realize this, but your textbook is parsed. What do I mean? Well, the textbook is made up of what? Chapters. The chapters are made up of pages. The pages are made up of paragraphs. The paragraphs are made up of sentences. The sentences are made up of words. That's a parsing that's going on when you're doing that. All right? We'll get into that more in later chapters. All right? But the author will tell you and give you some examples of it. And again, finishes up on pages 87 and 88 with another program. So if you want to start learning this stuff and learning to do it the right way, there's a read line, there's a convert. All right? So there's a bunch of stuff in here where you can learn this stuff if you have questions, comments, or don't get it. All right? If you have your book with you, and I realize not everybody does, but if you have your book with you, please turn to page 93 right now. If you have your book. Again, I'm sorry if you don't have your book. Hopefully you're the only one, and hopefully you're... Anybody else that doesn't have their book other than Drew? Hopefully yours will come in, like you said, on Friday. All right? But I'm going to give you the answers to the review questions right now. All right. So taking it from the top. Number 1. When you use a number like 45, it's referred to as a literal constant. I'm going to go through these quickly, so I want us to have more time to do the test review. And I'm finishing by 10:45. Number 2, a variable declaration. What doesn't it need? And the answer is C, because that's optional. You can put it in, you don't have to. So notice it says must. Must means required. Putting in an assigned value is not required. It's the difference between saying int age, semicolon, and int age equal 21, semicolon. All right. Number 3, variable declarations. 2 variables of the same type can be declared in the same statement. Just because you can do that, don't. What the author is saying is I can do this. Int age 1, comma, age 2. And that's the same thing as if you said int age 1 followed by int age 2. All right? That's legal, except it's not legal to your instructor. So don't do that. Do it like this. Yeah, it's more work, but that's the way that it should be done. And not all languages allow you to do that. That's why I don't want you to just pick up that bad habit, where if you try doing it later in some other language, it blows up. Number 4, these are just badass questions, and I don't mean in a good way. So number 4 is D. I'm not going to go over it. I don't like the way they worded it at all. Number 5 is B. I'm not going to go over that one. Number 6. All right, what they're saying here is what is 22 modulo 3? So what's the remainder of 22 divided by 3? 23 goes into 22 7 times with a remainder of 1. So the answer to 6 is B. (22) if they're both set up as integers, 22 divided by 3 gives you 7. The only way that you get 7.333 All right, the only way that you get that actual answer there is if you have to do some work. One or more of them have to be defined as doubles or floats. Number 8, this is stuff you should get. We talked about operator precedence. It's still up on the board. You do the multiplication first. So you do the 2 times 3, which gives you 6. You add 4 to it, which gives you 10. If you get a question like that on the test, and you put down that the answer is like 18, you're wrong. Okay? Number 9. Plus plus. Remember, you do it first. So if it was 3 and the plus plus comes first, when you get done, you do the plus plus, which makes it 4, and then you take the 4 and you assign it here. If it's the other way, if it's var plus plus, first you take 3 and assign it to var 2, then you add 1. So the value of var 2 in this case is 4, and in this case it's 3. So number 9 is C, number 10 is B. Number 11, a variable that can hold values of true and false is bool. The author won't do anything on a test. You won't have bool or boolean, for example. You don't have that. All right? It's hard enough to screw you up, or easy enough to screw people up anyway. Number 12, that's the wrong operator because it should be a greater than sign first, then an equal sign. And actually, in many programming languages, using the equal followed by the greater than sign means something totally different. So number 12A is the illegal operator. 13, 6 greater than or equal to 7, that's false, because 6 is less than 7. So it's D for 13. 14 is also D. Int cannot contain a floating point value. Int is whole number only. So 14 is D. 15. Assume you've declared a variable double hourly equal 13.0. What will the right line statement print? It's sort of a trick question that unless you format it, if it is 0.00, typically it won't print the 0.00 unless you format it. Okay? So it's A for number 15. Number 16. All right, I'm not sure exactly what they're trying to do there, but the answer is B. There's no question like that I remember on the test. 17. When you perform arithmetic operations, remember it does that implicit conversion. So 17 is A. 18, Unicode is C, a 16-bit coding scheme. 19, which of the following declares a variable that can hold the word computer? It's B. Remember, not single quotes, and all these two have single quotes. And this says char, so it must be a string with double quotes. Finally, number 20, to compare strings for equality, you use this. All right, it's interesting the author did it like this. You look up on the screen here, there's a little preview for you. That's how you do it in Java. So C is Java, B is C#. You need any of those repeated.
And go back.
7. 7 is B. And what? 17. So 7 was B. 17 is A. Any other one? All right, then we're going to do the test review because that gives us 20 minutes to do that. So bring up your test reviews that I sent to you. There's question 1. We're just going to start up as soon as everybody's ready. I'll give you a minute or two to bring that file up. So please get used to this then. On the day that I lecture on a chapter, you have that file open so we can just start on it right away. I don't have to tell people to open it up. And usually we start with question 1, not question 2, so. Again, I'll try to see if I can finish your tests between now and 11:55. I am going to say, though, I want all of them back so Tiffany can take hers tomorrow morning. Assignment single equals, concatenation the plus sign, equality double equals. So this test will be in 2 days. No test tomorrow. Everybody hear that? We will I'll guarantee it'll take no more than 2 hours, and I'll try to see if we can do it in an hour. We're going to write a console application, and then when we get done, we're going to write the same application, but we're going to write it as a GUI. Everybody hear that? And it'll be real simple. It'll be a simple payroll thing. We'll ask the person their name, we'll ask them the number of hours they worked, and we'll ask them what their hourly rate was. We won't worry about overtime. There'll be no if statement. There'll be both short programs. All right? If you can understand both those, you should be able to do well on the test, which will be Tuesday of next week, 6 days from today. Again, don't come in here next Monday. No classes, Martin Luther King Day. Okay? Well, you can. You'll get a great parking spot. You just won't be able to get in. So. Everybody have number 1 down? Yes? All right. Number 2. Operator precedence is the same thing I had up before. The order in which operations take place. In other words, you do multiplication, division, and modulo before you do addition and subtraction, unless you use what? Parentheses. That's about as complete a definition as I've found for operator precedence. Sometimes you'll even see charts in books that will show everything. So if we did that, if we put a chart in here, it would look like this. Parentheses first, then multiplication, division, modulo, then addition and subtraction. Does that make sense? That's the order of operations. That's it. There's other things we're going to learn, but just so you know, that's it. All right, parentheses are at the top. Does everybody have number 2? All right, on to number 3. I gave you an example of these, so if you want to type all that in, you can. I'll put it up there for a minute, but it's pre-increment or pre-decrement. The idea, though, is, when you increment or when you decrement, you are either adding 1 or you are subtracting 1. Did everybody hear that? That's the only way these work. Please don't ever write in your code x equal y plus 7, because that makes no sense whatsoever to the computer. If you use plus, it's got to either be before a variable or after it. The only thing after it should be your semicolon. All right? So yeah, there's a lot of examples there. But if you look at those examples, all right, and you can understand them, you understand pre-increment, post-increment, pre-decrement, post-decrement. If you ever heard my story, I said that and I actually got it right all 4 times. But one day I did it and I said, instead of saying increment or decrement, I said excrement. And I got really embarrassed. And they all laughed. I said, what's so funny? And they said, well, the top of your head turns red too when you get embarrassed, if you were ever wondering. And I said, yeah, of course, that's definitely one of those things I was wondering about. So again, there's a pre-increment, a post-increment, a pre-decrement, a post-decrement. So you should be able to understand those if you type that stuff in. All right? And now you got 2 days to look at it. So you can look at it tonight, and you can look at it tomorrow night. are you smiling at me when I say that? Or you can look at it 5 minutes before the test. I mean, you can do all three, so. That's what's up there, though. Take a look at it, and if it does not make sense, your first point of contact should be your book, because the author shows several examples. If you still don't get it, then ask. God bless you. And I've got to look, because half of you got one or more questions wrong on this first test. The one on the bottom of the first page, the answer should have been procedural programming, and at least half of you put object-oriented programming. So I want to look at it. I may throw that one out, and I may throw out one of the other ones. All right? Kudos to those of you who got it right. So again, tomorrow when you come in here, we will starting right at 8:05, we're going to write a simple payroll program as a console app. When we get done, we're going to turn around and write that same program as a GUI app. You may want to keep those handy. If you want, even print out hard copies, although that black printer isn't working, the other one is. You may want to print out hard copies of those for the test, or to use as a study guide, or whatever. Everybody have this? Well, when I hear almost, I don't want to go on. So. Yeah? Okay. All right, number 4. What is an escape sequence? It's when you preface something with a backslash. Backslash N for new line, backslash T for tab. Right? You know, can somebody tell me this? If I wanted to print this on the screen, this is the backslash character. And I wanted to print that. How would I do that? How would I show that if I wanted to print it? Because backslash means whatever follows is a special character, right? So I'd have to say, this is the backslash character, and I have to say backslash, backslash. So if I actually want to put a backslash in a string, I've got to use backslash, backslash. Anybody know when that might be important? How about if you're doing a DOS or a Windows file path name? So you get really weird looking stuff that looks like C:\\\, desktop, \, etc. Right? Everybody have number 4. Number 5. What is a variable? What is initial? Wait a minute. How the hell did that happen? Because that's not correct. That was a copy and paste. A variable is a named memory location whose contents may vary. And there's an example of initializing a variable. So there's an example of both initializing and declaring and initializing. That's just a declaration. So this first one technically should say declaration / initialization. think there's 24 questions and we have 10 minutes. So we're done at 10:45 because that's what I promised. And this isn't on your test, but I want to put this in here because I want to make sure you at least see this. So what is a variable, and how about this? What is a constant? I don't think that's on your test. I'm 99.9% sure it's not. But a constant is a special kind of variable whose contents may not vary. All right? So once you set the value for a constant, you cannot change the value you set for the constant. I don't believe that's on your test. I don't think there's anything about constants on the test. Everybody has number 5? All right, number 6. What is the format string? Remember, it's that thing inside of the curly braces. It allows you to format something in a certain way. I can tell those of you who are not fast typists, no one took advantage of the Mavis Beacon typing tutor as I asked you to do during the break. Free online typing tutor. All right, number 7. What is a placeholder? You already know that literally is what you put in those curly braces is referred to. If I want to print out on the screen something like this, 3 plus 8 equals 11. And let's say that the variable, that's A, that's B, and that's C. Everybody understand that? Does that make sense? So A is equal to 3. So I've got int A equal 3, int B equal 8, int C equal A plus B. So what I want to print on the screen is this, okay? One way I can do it is I can say right line, and I can literally say in here, in the double quotes, 0 plus 1 equals 2. And then I have to say that's A, and that's B, and that's C. So this is a placeholder for A, this is a placeholder for B, and that's a placeholder for C. If you understand that, there really isn't a lot more to it other than after any of these you can put a colon, C if you want it in currency, or if you need to do it in a certain amount of decimal places or whatever. Questions on that one? Everybody has that one done? Number 8. What is an int? It's a whole number, okay? As Valerie said before, it doesn't have a decimal portion. sometimes called a fractional portion. A floating point number can have a decimal. Doesn't need to, but it can have a decimal place. Everybody has that? Number 9, that's simple, format string. Number 10, a little longer. Please look up on the screen here. Everybody see this? Everybody see that line right there? This is called a binary operator. So plus is binary. And what that means is it needs something before it and something after it. If I say int d equals -6, that's a unary operator because there's something after it but nothing before it. Unary meaning 1, like a unicycle. Binary meaning 2, like a bicycle. All right? Well, I'm sorry, this is probably going to take 5 more minutes than I thought it would. As it mentions right here, if you've got z equals x plus y, the plus sign is called the operator, the y and the x are called the operands. If you want to know the verbiage that goes along with it. Okay, number 11. It's called the add and assign. I called it the combined operator. So remember there's an add and assign, there's a subtract and assign, there's a multiply and assign, there's a divide and assign, and there is a modulo and assign. I believe I put it like this because they actually give an example. They give you something like this, and they say that's an example of, and one of the choices is add and assign operator. So if you remember add and assign, you should be fine. So if x was 10 and we say x plus equal 15, that means x is now 25. Remember, this right here, this is the key part of it. If you look at that thing that's in gray right there, and I'll put it right underneath it if I can line it up. That's the same thing as saying x equals x plus 15. It's just a shortcut. If you find it confusing, don't use it. All right, number 12. A bool, a char, and a string. All of these are on the test. All right, they give you an example and they say this is an example of a, one of them's a bool, true, false. One of them's a char, single quotes. One of them's a string, double quotes. If you remember the way they're set up, you should be fine on this question. And please look up on the screen here. This isn't on the test, but you need to know this. If I write this, if, try it again, if x greater than 3. All right, I want to get rid of that, make it lower. Does anybody know what this is called right here in the parentheses? Right there. That is known as a Boolean condition. When we get into chapters 3 and 4, we're going to go through if statements again and loops. They all involve the use of Boolean conditions. Boolean meaning it's either true or it's false. Either x is greater than 3, true, or x is not greater than 3, false. So you're going to see this again, is what I'm telling you. And what's Boolean again? You said it before, Drew. What is it?
True and false. True, false.
Okay. That's what Boolean means. Boolean is true, false. So you typically see things like married or union. Variables like that will be set up as Boolean variables. Legal age could be set up as a Boolean variable. All right, so if it's 21, you either are 21 or older or you are not 21 or older. Does that make sense? You got to pick it up. We're already running to, it's going to be close to 11 when we finish. I want to give you time so you can look at and work on some of this stuff. Does everybody have that one? All right, number 13. What is an implicit cast? Remember, I said this earlier. Implicit means either the software or the computer does it. Explicit, you do it. The word automatic is the key word in there. All right? Everybody has that? Number 14 then. What C# keyword do you use to declare a constant? It's const. Why do you use a constant? Because you want a value that cannot change in the program. And I'll quickly, it's not on the test, but I'll put an example. Again, like I did before, double tax rate equals 0.33. That's a constant. Once I add the keyword const. Does everybody understand? Now it's a constant. Now it's a variable, just a regular variable. Now it's a special kind of variable that's known as a constant. All right? These are things that just have to become part of your psyche. That, you know, not that you're tested on them, but you just have to know how to work with them. All right, everybody has that? Number 15 then, an interactive program. It's one that uses read line. Okay? You're going to write an interactive console program tomorrow. You solicit input from the user. Wait, somebody's going to walk by and say, are you talking about solicitation in here? Yeah. You're asking the user for some input. That's the interactiveness. And guess what? Those of you who were in the class last semester, you already know how to do that. Didn't we write forms last semester? Forms are interactive. They expect you to put in information. Maybe I mean, you'll rue the day that you asked me to do this now, you know? But you'll be glad tomorrow that you've got it done already, so. And I'm proud of you because you're the only one who knew it was dressed like your teacher day. We're twins. Sorry, didn't mean to embarrass you. Well, so Ethan, you kind of did the same because you got your sweatshirt on, so also.
Yeah, you know, I got blue on.
Oh, there you go. See, I couldn't tell. All right, do you have tan pants on? Oh, wow.
I missed the memo.
Yeah, well, you didn't get any of the memo. Evan got the bottom half of the memo. So, you know, it's, all right. Everybody has that one, correct? All right, number 16. That's an easy one. Read line. And it's not asked on the test, but please look at the capitalization. They're using Pascal casing here. Read, capital R, line, capital L. If you put it in on your program and you don't have a capital R and a capital L, error. If you have anything capitalized other than the R and the L, error. If you spell read, R-E-E-D, error. Number 17. If you want to convert something to a byte, it's to byte. Again, the T capitalized, the B capitalized, and it's B-Y, not B-I. When 2 schools ago, when I was teaching at a school, we started up our own computer club. And I told the students that they could, this is no joke, they could make their own logo and stuff. So they did, and their motto was "Bite Me," but it was B-Y-T-E-M-E. Well, I told the woman who was basically the head of the school, said, I got good news and bad news for you. She goes, what's that? And this is not a joke. So the good news is we've got a computer club. She goes, well, that's good. What's the bad news? I let them make their own motto. She says, is it dirty? And I said, you tell me. And I showed her that. She's like, that really isn't acceptable around. And they wore those things all the time. For those 2 years, there were people who wore them every single day, even in summer. All right? So to byte, and then an alternative to convert is parse. Hopefully you had time to key both those in. To byte and parse. That's an assignment statement. Somebody tell me why it's an assignment statement and not a test for equality. What? There's only one equal sign. Thank you. If there was going to be a double equal sign, it would have to be in parentheses with an if or a while or something else, because putting it with a double equal sign makes it a Boolean condition. So it's an assignment statement. Number 19. What type? Double. God bless you. That should be easy enough for everybody to type in, no matter how fast or slow you type. 19 is double. Now there's the definitions, and it goes up to 28. So let me cut down the size here. Is that big enough that everybody can read it? Because that's all of them. There's 9 of them. They're all right there. So I'll leave that up there for a bit yet. And once you've got the 9 done, take your break. And we're here then for about another hour. Told you, I knew culture was in there someplace. And this is no joke, okay? But some of you do this when you're doing these, and it's very hard when you do this, and then you do this. I don't know which one is an A and which one is a D. See what I'm saying? Some of you are getting real bad at that. It's like I used to give true-false tests, and I have a student who did this. Why'd you do that? Because I'm right either way. No, that's not really acceptable. In fact, I had a teacher who got so many of those that he did something that was really smart. He said, true, false, if false, why? No, I'm not going to. That's why the ones that we have, if it's true or false, you can circle it. Some of you are even writing off to the side T or the word true or whatever. But all I'm saying is just please, and sometimes your G's look like A's, etc., and it's really hard to read through some of that stuff. If nothing else, use capital letters if you want. And that's it for today. So when you're done, take your break, key in some code. I'm going to give you hard copies tomorrow of what we do, but I'm not going to give them to you until we're done with the programs. Because otherwise, some of you are going to stop listening and you're just going to start keying stuff in. I don't like that. It's not a great way to learn. But in case you're a slow typist or if you make a mistake or whatever, you will have, by the end of the class period, you will have 2 pieces of paper. All right, 1 for each one of them. 1 for the console and 1 for the GUI app. If for some reason I don't get your test totally graded, you'll get them first thing tomorrow morning, but if you look after lunch, they will be out there on Inside Rankin under your grade. They will be out there. There's 40 questions, do the math. 40 times 2.5, all right, is 100. I'm not gonna be giving partial credit for things. It's either you got it right or you got it wrong. Otherwise, it's too tough when I'm working with fractions and the like. I don't wanna do that. And Colin, because you haven't heard this before, after 9 weeks, I'm going to come in here, give you all something that'll be online, and you will do an evaluation of me. It'll be online, and you'll you run off a piece of paper, and no names, total anonymity. And then at the end of the semester, Shannon, I don't know if you saw Shannon at the meeting, she's one of the site coordinators. She will come in here and do a similar thing, and I'll be gone. And I also leave the room when you do the one that I created, so. Anybody need any of those that you didn't get? Anything earlier? Yes.
Number 3. Yeah, number 3.
Any other ones?
I don't think so.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna stop the tape then.